what are the main things that we need to look into?
Does your supplier have certifications?
So how do you find that?
I would advise you to do floor loaded.
What are the size restrictions for Amazon?
So you can sell it on other multiple channels.
How does that stack up with the service that you offer?
So this is how warehouse insurance works.
Ecom Squeezed podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of Ecom Squeezed. I am your host, Sebastian, and today we have a very special guest who is going to save you a lot of money and headache on the logistics side. Afolabi Oyerokun is the co-founder of and CEO of HONU Worldwide, a company specializing in warehouse, customs, and logistics for Amazon business. Afolabi have a wealth of experience on the e-commerce space, and today he's here to share his insights on how to avoid costly mistake when importing to the US. Welcome to the show, Afolabi.
Thank you, Sebastian. I'm happy to come on with you here today.
So my first question will be, if you can give us some background. You've been in the e-commerce world from 2002.
Yes.
So you have done a lot of years. So if you can give us a background, what all things you did during that time and what all inspiration that you got to start this logistic business.
Yeah, thanks for that. I would say my story really started when I designed some shoes, some sneakers back in 2001, and I was looking for who to make it for me, and I couldn't find any manufacturer. Alibaba wasn't so popular at that time, so I was just sending emails to whoever I could send emails to. One supplier just replied me from Taiwan, and he says, they told me they can make the shoes for me. And I was really, really excited. But the guy says, you have to come here. You have to fly down here. So I flew to Taiwan with the last penny in my pocket. I went there, talked to them. They liked my design. They started helping me to put the designs together, to put the prototypes together. Long story short, we manufactured the shoes. We brought them into the US here. I had no experience in marketing, nothing. I didn't even plan for that. I didn't know I was going to do any marketing or anything like that. I was just going blindly. So I was going to trade shows and different places that I think I could, sell the shoes at. Eventually, I think my wife found out that one could sell products on Amazon. And these were the times that Amazon was just selling books. They were just starting to go into selling other merchandise. So we sent the information to them. They said they liked the shoes, that they would like to have us on their platform. There was no seller central, nothing. We put the shoes there, and they actually were selling, surprisingly. But something went wrong. We discovered that the sizes of the shoes were wrong. Like they were like one size smaller. So if you're wearing an 8 or 9, you would have to buy a size up. There was no way we could put it in the listing. We tried putting it in the listing that, hey guys, when you're ordering if you wear a 10, please order 11. It still didn't work. People were buying and returning and buying and returning, and and there was no FBA. So we were self-fulfilling by ourselves. The return charges, everything was just too much. So I had to liquidate the inventory. I sold off the shoes. It was so sad. But something great came out of it. A lot of companies and individuals started to reach out to me and say, hey, Afolabi, how did you do it? How did you make those shoes? We want you to help us to source our own products too. So I started sourcing products for companies, small businesses, anybody I could do it for, any company that could reach out to me. So I'm happy that came. That was born out of all this. But also we talked about logistics. That's how I learned about shipping. That's how I learned about containers, clearing, forwarding, all those things I learned the hard way by going to factories, watching my factory make stuff and ship it, clear it, all the process, I had to do it by myself because I didn't have any money to pay anybody. I had to bootstrap everything all by myself. So that was how my journey started. Looking back now, I'm so grateful that I had to go through it because it taught me a lot of things. It opened my world to a whole new world entirely. And then in 2014, me and my friend, we went back to selling on Amazon. And this time I have a good knowledge. I had a good knowledge of what to do. And I've had a lot of experience sourcing a lot of products, developing a lot of products at that time. So he said to me, hey, let's go sell again. I'm like, I sold on Amazon before. It was a pain. I lost money. Don't bring back my pain. It's like, no, it's different. They have something called FBA now. I'm like, what is that? It's like, Amazon will fulfill for you. You don't have to do anything. I'm like, that's a game changer. So we started selling, and in 2021, we exited like 3 brands of our own. And now I focus entirely on helping sellers with logistics, like a turnkey logistics, and also helping them, especially with tariff, because tariff is a major thing that most sellers, it's not sexy, but it could ruin your business if you don't know what you're doing, especially in that field. So that's how I got into that.
Oh, great. Thanks a lot for the insight. I think, we as a seller have to go through that, the process, right? We make mistake, we learn from that mistakes, and we come out stronger.
Yes.
Great. Your company, HONU Worldwide, I assume you do door-to-door service, right? So you cover the full spectrum, right?
Yes.
But I think, we will not have enough time to cover all those, the full process. I was planning to cover just the part once the product lands in the US, for example. The
Yes.
first thing is the codes, the customs, and
Correct.
the product compliance. So there are a lot of factors, right?
Correct.
Can you give us, what are the main things that we need to look into once the products are landed? Actually, we have to plan it long before that, but regarding the HS codes and the compliance, what are your thoughts on that?
It's good. That question is really good. I strongly believe that before anybody would launch any product online, you need to know so many other things before you even go. I see so many sellers come to me and say, hey, Afolabi, I think I'm having problems. I brought my products to the US, and when I was about to bring it into the US, they said I'm paying 35% duty. How is that possible? I'm like, did you not check your duty cost before you even launch this product? How are you sure your product is going to be profitable if you don't
Yeah.
know how much you're going to be paying in duty? So let's rewind a little bit. Let's jump back into the past, into the very beginning, and then fast forward. Before anybody should launch any product, please, 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 you need to know your duties. How do you do that? There's something called HTS or HS codes. It's a 6 to 10 digit number. HS, which is harmonized system, it's a code given to every single product you're importing into the US. For Europe, they call it HS. I think UK is using HTS now. So every
Yeah.
product under the sun has a unique HTS code identifier. With that HTS code, you would know your duty rate. So when you're researching products to sell, make sure you have, when you shortlist all these products, let's say you shortlist 5 products you want to launch, make sure you know all the HTS code for that product. You can get it from your supplier. In most cases, it's not, what you get from your supplier is not accurate because your supplier is probably Chinese. He doesn't really fully know. That's why we'll talk about it later. That's why we have our Tariff Terminator app, and you can do a free lookup of your HTS code. Just put in whatever HTS code your supplier gives you, put it into our system. It's free. It will tell you exactly what product that HTS code is for. If that HTS code doesn't match the description of your product, then you know your supplier gave you the wrong code. and you cannot use that code. If you do, it will cause delays in customs. The customs can seize your product, they can flag it for examination, and they can impound it and destroy it. It's happened to me before, so I know. I'm talking from experience that I brought a product into the port of Jacksonville in Florida, and they asked me some questions. I couldn't provide the documentation they needed because my supplier ran away. When I sent him the letter from CBP, he disappeared, and they had to destroy a whole container worth of products. So yeah, it was painful. It was painful. So when you bring products into the US, before you bring it, before you launch it, before you produce the product, you must know the HTS code. You use the HTS code to calculate your profitability. If your HTS code is 25% duty, you have to factor it into your cost of goods, right? Because if you don't, you bring this product here, you may be running at a loss. You might not be able to even compete with your with other sellers. Other sellers may be cheating, or they may know the right code for their products, but you may not know. You may be using the wrong one, and it's happened to me before, and I'll share that story later on. But you bring those products, you know your HTS code, you pay the right duty, and the products come here and arrive safely with no problem into the.
So you mentioned about the container that's been seized and destroyed, right? For
Yes.
that container, the main reason was that the product compliance, or is that mainly for the codes? What was the issue for that container?
That's good. For my container issue, I was importing a large industrial cooling system.
Okay.
So that cooling system has the power cable, right, to plug it to the wall. And
Yeah.
on that power cable, there's the UL logo, right? So the customs looked at the power cable and they saw the UL logo, and they said, does your supplier have certification to use the UL logo? I said, I think so. He said, can you provide us the evidence that this supplier you used is a certified or authorized UL manufacturer? And I went to my supplier. The supplier gave me a fake document. I gave
Really?
it to
Wow.
them. Yeah, I gave it to the customs. They said, nope, this is fake. And then I'm like, really? Wow. And then I told my supplier, and he stopped responding.
Yeah. That
So
can be
for
a
that
tricky situation,
reason,
right?
I
So
said, and I
you're
told the
kind of
customer, I said, guys,
falsifying the
let me
documents.
fly down there. I'll cut the cable from all the 56 units in that container. I'll cut the cable. They're like, no, it doesn't work that way.
At least you tried.
I tried. So since then, I'm like, oh, so it's a very important, it's a very important thing to be aware of. Certification. If you're selling children's product, you need to be sure that your product meet the standards. You need to know that they're lead free. They conform to CP. I think it's called CPSC for children's product. You have to have an MSDS safety data sheet to prove that they're not flammable, or all the things that you need to make sure that you're compliant. You need to check it very well before you bring it into the US.
Great, thank you. And regarding the HS code, some of the products might fall into two different categories. One might be higher, one might be lower tariff, right?
Yes.
So how do you find that? Sometimes you just check it and select the first one that might be of a higher rate. And regarding the Tariff Terminator, is that an app or is that on the web-based? Could you give us some insight on that as well, please? Mm-hmm.
Those two countries are using the code system, which is 10 digit. The rest of the world use HS, which is 6 digit, 4 to 6 digits. So you just go on tariffterminator.com, go to free HTS lookup, punch your number in there, that whatever the supplier gave you. If it doesn't match the description of your product, know that you need to reclassify that product. You need to get the right HTS code. Then you have to hire an expert. So in our system, it says, to hire us to classify for you. You just complete the form. It's a short form. Tell us your product information. You can even give us the URL of your product, or you can give us the photo of your product. We will do in-depth research of your product and come back to you with the correct HTS code and the duty rate you're supposed to be using.
Great. Thank you. From your experience, have you found something like that? One of your client came to you and asked, okay, this is the tariff that I am paying currently. And then later on, you found a cheaper rate, and that will be like thousands
A
of
lot of
dollars, right?
A lot of
time.
I think so. Let's talk
So
about
it's worth checking, right? In that case, currently, if you are just paying, have a look into it, go to that website.
Yes. So I'll tell you the
Great.
story. I'll tell you the story of how the Tariff Terminator app came to be. But before I tell that story, the Tariff Terminator now does way more than just helping you to classify your product. If we classify your product, give you the right HTS code, tell you the right duty rate, that's just part one. The part two is you need to constantly monitor that HTS code because it's changing every month.
Really?
The
I didn't know
tariff
that.
rate, the tariff rate could change. The government could do a special exemption for you. They can say, hey, between January to March of 2025, we are exempting all these HTS codes from duty. That tells you have to import your product between that time window to enjoy that exemption. Or it could be on the other side, the government can say, you know what, the duty rate for this HTS code is going up. Like yesterday was in the US was the presidential debate. They also mentioned tariff. One candidate says, I'm going to add more tariffs. Another candidate says, I'm going to keep the tariff. So you have to watch those tariffs like a hawk, right? You have to know if your product is not under anti-dumping. And your product can be flagged for anti-dumping any day, anytime. And if you don't know, you order a container load and you discover your tariff is 200%, you're in trouble. So we put in ability to to monitor your HTS code. So even if we can't find you savings, even we found out that, oh, you're using the right HTS code, just continue to use it, you're fine. You still have to monitor it, and it's just $10 per ASIN.
Right, okay.
$10 per year per ASIN is very cheap. Less than $1 a month to monitor your product's HTS code. But let's go to history of how I really started. That will answer the other question. Remember, I was selling products on Amazon, and there was this product I was selling. It was like a dry erase board, and I just noticed that my shipping cost was getting really high. I'm like, what's going on? Why is my shipping cost high? And I spoke to my forwarder, and he's like, it's because of the tariff. Your tariff is 31%. I said, so I've been paying 31% all this while? I said, yep. I said, okay. So I took the HTS code. I looked at my form, my customs form. We will get there as also. It's called Customs Entry Form 7501. Everybody files it. Whether your forwarder tells you or not, you file it. Anytime you bring a product into the US, your shipper or your customs broker or your forwarder must have filed Form 7501. Accidentally, I just happened to find that 7501 form from all the documentation my forwarder sent to me. So I was looking at it, and I'm like, the description of my product is wrong. This is not my product. The form says I'm selling photographic plate. I'm not selling photographic plate. I'm selling dry erase board. You mean I'm paying 31% duty on the wrong product? That was $310,000 a year that I'm paying in duties on $1 million purchase. If your purchase price with your supplier is $1 million a year and you're paying 31% in duty, that's $310,000. So I took it upon myself. I'm like, I'm gonna go find myself this correct HCS code. So I had to dig through 13,000 lines of customs codes and just researching. It was so difficult. So I finally found the code that was appropriate for my product. And guess what my duty rate was? 3.5%. I should have been paying 3.5% instead of 31%. So I'm like, there's got to be an easy way to do this thing. So I developed the app. It took us 6 to 8 months to build it, to make it easy for everybody to be able to know what duty they should be paying. So I saved over $200,000 a year by just reclassifying my product. So many sellers have been coming to us. Some of them, we have about 60 to 70% success rate. Out of every 10 products we look at, we're able to find savings for about 7 out of 10. Some are saving $2,000 or $3,000. Some are saving $150,000. Some are saving way more. The bigger sellers, they like the Tariff Terminator service because they're saving a lot of money. And also, another set of people that come to us are the aggregators.
Okay.
So the aggregators will come and say, look, let's sign an NDA. I want to buy those companies. I want to buy those brands. Can you help me check if they're using the right duty rate? Because if we should find savings in their duty rate, the aggregator already knows is making money from day one. By just reclassifying your product, he's already made his money back. So aggregators like to use this service. Large sellers, they like to use it because they don't want to get into trouble with compliance, U.S. customs, and they want to save money. Some people we found, maybe 1% of people we find out they're actually supposed to be paying more.
Okay.
They're
So
paying
there are a lot of savings to be made,
Yes.
And regarding the audit, do you, as a part of your service, do you offer that service as well, auditing the account to see if there is anything savings that you can make?
Correct. So, especially for your audience, we will be happy to audit their products for free.
Oh, okay.
If we find savings, then it would be $400 instead of $500. If we do find savings. If we don't find savings, they don't owe us anything.
Okay. So it's
a win-win situation for them. We just want to let people know about this. It will help them compete better in the market against low-cost sellers if they are able to find the right code. If they're using the wrong code, we'll be able to find it and we'll be able to help them to reclassify it.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. My next question will be the container costs have gone up, but it have gone down now recently, but still not as before. But the storage cost that we get, for example, if we take a 20-foot container, so I think we get around 33 CBM, right, for full container. So how do we plan to store good inside to maximize the storage? So we have an option to get pallets in, or should we just put the boxes in as it is to maximize it? From your experience, which option will be the best option?
So as a 3PL facility owner, we see people send us products on pallets and we see people send us products floor loaded. Especially with the container prices going up, I would advise you to do floor loaded. Just pack that container full because the difference, if you're using pallets, you're wasting about 10 to 20% of the container space by using pallets, because you won't be able to, there will be space between each pallet and there will be space above as well. But if you stack it really high from top to bottom, you will be saving. Even the cost of unloading it on our side as a 3PL owner is still not a lot compared to the amount you would be losing if you don't do a floor loaded container.
Great. So there are a lot of savings to be made on that side as well.
Yes.
Regarding planning, let's assume that you are getting goods from different factories in China, right? And then you have to calculate, right? Okay, the first supplier, I will have like 30 CBM from the other supplier. So you have to plan it accordingly to make sure that you fill the container fully and there is no goods left behind.
Correct.
So is there any app or website that you can use to calculate, the storage that we have on the container?
There is an app called So Stocked. Have you
Okay,
heard
so
of it
stock.
before?
No.
Oh, So Stocked. SOSTOCKED. So Stocked.
Huh? Okay.
It
I'll put the link in the description
Yes,
for any of the
yes, it's
viewers.
owned by Carbon 6. It helps you you just put in your box sizes. It helps you to calculate and optimize your container for you. And if you want to put something on a pallet, there's an app called onpallet.com, ONPALLET.com. It's going to give you a visual look of what your pallet
Wow.
will look like and how to maximize the space on your pallet. Because I do realize some people, they cannot do floor loaded, because we have customers that are selling in the cosmetics and skincare space. They have to use a pallet because their products are so heavy, they can't floor load them, so they put it on a pallet. But they will use tools like the one on onpallet.com or So Stocked to be able to maximize the pallet space and make sure that everything is fully packed without compromising the integrity of the product.
Great. That's great. So my next follow-up question will, if you do the flow packing and if you fill up the container, the question will come to, when you unload, there might be an issue with safety. It might fall off. In that case, in a pallet, you can just put it. You can just use the forklift, and it's much easier to unload, right? But if it's filled up with boxes, it might be a different case. In terms of safety, what are the measures that we can take in order to stop box falling outside when you open the container, for example?
So that's really, really good. There are two things to bear in mind when you are doing floor loaded pallets. The first thing is, make sure you load your container sequentially. That means if you're going to put in 7 SKUs, make sure you load in SKU 1 first, SKU 2, SKU 3, SKU 4. Don't put a little box of SKU 1, a little box of SKU 2, a little box of SKU 7. Don't load it first and then mix everything. Your 3PL will charge you a lot of money because it takes them time to sort it out for you. That's a way to save. You will save a lot of money if you load your container sequentially, right? Because when we're offloading it for you, it wouldn't take us time to offload. We'll just know, oh, we're offloading SKU 7 first. Okay, bring out all the SKU 7, put it on a pallet, prep it, wrap it, take it. But if we say there's only 2 boxes of SKU 7 here, we put SKU 7 on the pallet. Oh, there's another SKU 22 somewhere here, and then we scatter the whole floor with pallets. It's going to take us a lot of time to offload. And for safety, when you load up your container, for the safety of your product and for the safety of the people unloading, make sure you put a net. There is a cargo net.
Okay.
Yes, so the container, ask your forwarder to put a cargo protective net over the container so that when your boxes move during in transit, it will not fall on the person. When we open the container door, it will not fall off because there's a net that is blocking it in to the container. And also, when you are loading your container, especially with heavy goods, it's better to, if you're not going to fill the full container, if you're going to fill like 90% or 95% of the container, to prevent it from the box rolling on top of each other and causing a chaos when we open the door, make sure you gradually slope the box when you're arranging it. That means do a full height on the back and then make the next row 1 box lower, and then make the next row 2 box lower, and make the next row until you get to the front of the container. That way, if something moves, it will not tip on top of each other. It will be very intact by the time it comes.
Great. Thank you. That's a lot of tips, good points as well. And regarding, let's assume that we are bringing in pallet, right? So, and we are planning to send that to Amazon straight away.
Huh?
So we need to consider two things, the labeling, the wrapping.
Correct.
So you don't have to, take the boxes out.
Correct.
And if it's the right size, we can just straight away send that to Amazon, right?
Correct.
So what are the size restrictions for Amazon? And if there is any label requirement, for the warehouse to identify the pallet?
So at least 2 or 3 things on regard to your transshipping. You're pretty much transshipping your pallets to stop a little bit at the 3PL before sending it to Amazon. I always tell people to, if the box is like this, every one of your master carton, I'll prefer you to put a label on one side and one side here, so that it's almost like how do you say that mathematically? One label on this side and one label
Okay,
like an
on
angle
both sides,
90. Yeah, like an angle 90 degrees from each other, so that in the warehouse, if we look at your pallet, wherever we're standing, we can know what box is there, what's written on the box. That way we're not having to turn your box. Where is the SKU number?
Yeah.
We want to be able to see the SKU number. I've helped a lot of brands like design their box labels, their master carton labels, because the most efficient brands are the ones that put color labels on the boxes. So the product photo is there, the SKU number is there, very big. I'm talking 8 by 11 paper, full color, one on this side, one on this side, has all the photos of the product. In those cases, you have almost zero chances of making any mistake. Even your supplier in China may not make any mistake because these people don't read English. Remember, your supplier is probably Mandarin or Cantonese. You're asking him to sort out an English product. But if he sees the photo, the full color photo of the product on the label, he will not make mistakes because he will know, oh, okay, I get it. This is this. Okay, all right, fine. So that's the first thing. When you're shipping pallets, make sure that the labels are 90 degrees to each other. Make sure your carton labels are very legible. Preferably, please, if you can do color, big color labels with the photo of the product on it, it will be really good. And also with Amazon's, especially Amazon's requirement when you're labeling products for Amazon, we use 4x6 labels to send products to Amazon, and it's usually thermal 4x6 labels. It's just easier to handle. So that's what we use when we're prepping. And when you prep, make sure it doesn't go higher than, I think it's 72 now for the height of the pallet. Make sure you wrap it completely well, not just flimsy wraps. Some 3PLs are trying to save money on wraps. You just wrap it once and they leave it like that. By the time it gets to Amazon, it's tilted over, something is broken, and you wonder why your return rate is so high. It's because by the time your product gets to Amazon, it's already in pieces. So you need to tell your 3PL to really wrap it and wrap it and wrap it like 3-4 times to make it really secure, so that when it gets there, Amazon is happy, you're happy, and make sure your pallet is not overweighing. Amazon doesn't like pallets that are over, I think, 1,500 or 2,000 pounds. I think it's the limit. I think maybe 1,500 is the limit. Don't go over it. They will rather let your pallet height be lower so you can stay within the weight threshold that they want. And also your master carton, make sure they're not heavier than, I think, 40 pounds, because Amazon will charge you penalties if they weigh more than 40 or 50 pounds. So unless you're selling oversized goods, make sure that the boxes that you're using is not more than 24 on the longest side, 24 inches.
Great, thank you. So on the box side, let's assume that we are sending a container, just a box, right? So in that case, if you put the quantity outside, the SKU outside, and there'll be case packed. So in your experience, you can put all those details. Will that make the pick and pack easier for the warehouse, for example. So they know exactly the quantity.
Correct.
Is there anything else that you want to add apart from that?
Well, it's easier for the warehouse. It's easier for Amazon. It's easier for your factory. And especially, Amazon uses robotics. So it's easy for them to just move your product and to check it in faster because there's no problem. Problematic problematic cargo is just the number one reason that Amazon takes so long to check in our products. That's what you don't want to do so that everything can flow smoothly.
Yeah. So let's assume that we got the item in the warehouse, and this seller want to feed that stock to Amazon, to their website, to Etsy, a lot of different channels.
Correct.
So the stock keeping comes into question, right? So what kind of stock keeping software that you use, and which is best normally in the industry that have a lot of integration with all those, accounting software and shipping software and all the selling platforms as well?
That's good. So I know there has been a lot of inventory management software, and the only problem they all have is they don't connect with 3PL softwares. They don't integrate very well with 3PL softwares. So you can imagine you're using a 3PL and your 3PL cannot talk to your inventory management software. So your 3PL has all your inventory. You can see your inventory with the 3PL software, but you cannot use it. You cannot see it in your forecasting software. Your inventory management or inventory forecasting software, you can see your inventory. You have to manually copy from here to here all the time. So that's a number one problem that I see with all the forecasting software. There is one software that came out, I think it's called Fleber. It has complete visibility to all the 3PL software. Fleber, FLIEBER.com. Fleber. So Fleber will see across all your multiple channels. Our software in the 3PL, we will connect it to all your stores, your Shopify, your eBay, your Etsy. We can connect to up to 110 marketplaces, different marketplaces, Fair, House, Fair, Walmart, everywhere. We can connect to there and push your inventory across all those platforms.
Right.
So we have that. And it comes in really handy, especially for somebody that just doesn't want to sell on Amazon alone. You want to sell on different channels. We will be able to connect to all your multiple channels and push your inventory across to all of them in one shot, real time.
Oh, that's great. From a seller point of view, they will get access, right, to the inventory
Correct.
software. They will have their own dashboard to see the stock.
Correct.
Okay, great. That's fantastic. And the next topic I want to cover is the returns. That's one kind of the main part, right? So is that something that you provide?
Yes. So we do returns management, but I need to caution most sellers on returns. There are some returns that are just not worth it. If you're selling a product that is less than $40 in retail, I am not sure I am not so sure if the return is worth it. Why did I say that? So we have people come to us and say, "Hey, we want you to manage our returns for us." They sell a $10 item. Amazon charges you $2.50 or more just to process your return and send it to your 3PL. When it gets to your 3PL, we charge maybe $1 to take a look at it. And then we need to put a new label on it. That's 35 cents. And we need to do this and we need to do that. And then for you to send it back to Amazon, there's no money anymore because when you resell it, you're running at a loss by the time you sell it again on Amazon. All the FBA fees alone will kill you just with that. So we advise everyone and say, hey, look, some returns are just not worth sending back to Amazon or calling back unless you want to sell those returns on liquidation. So we do liquidation for customers also that want to sell all their returns, or they want to sell some slow moving inventories or dead inventories. Going back to returns, we found out that many products that come back from Amazon as unsellable, there's actually nothing wrong with them. Nothing wrong with them. We get them, and maybe there's a little a little tiny tear in the box. That's it. And Amazon just condemns them as unsellable. They're not even open. They're not even touched. They're perfectly brand new, right? So if you have issues like that, I would say, okay, gather your returns back to your 3PL. You can either sell it on eBay, you can sell it on other multiple channels, whatever you wish to sell it at, you can sell it on those channels, and you can make some money back. Or if you want, you can donate them. If you want, you can, scrap them, do whatever you want to do with them. You might still end up getting some money back.
Great. You said the right point regarding, the small, like 35 cents to repack, but it might seems to be small, but when you add up, in 1,000 unit,
Yes.
that will be a big figure, right?
Yes.
And regarding the liquidation, Amazon also offer a liquidation service, right? How does that stack up with the service that you offer? I know Amazon doesn't have that much, their rates are not that
I
great
think
for the
Amazon's liquidation, I think they're offering you 1 or 2% if you're lucky of your retail price. So if you're selling a $20 item, Amazon wants to buy it for 20 cents, pretty much. If your item retails for $20, they want to buy it for 20 cents. But if we send it out to our liquidation buyers, you might be able to get 5 to 10% of your retail price from it. So in that case, it may be cheaper for us to liquidate for you than to let Amazon take it. But you need to factor the cost of having Amazon send it back to us. So if you're doing a removal order, if you remove your product and you want to send it back to us to do something on, you have to also make sure you know the cost of removing those products, and that at the end of the day, it's going to be well worth it for you rather than Amazon just, liquidating it for you.
Great, thank you. So the next question will be, if I'm storing a lot of stock in the warehouse, right, 3PL, regarding insurance, who is going to take care of the insurance? Is that something that you have to do it, or is that the seller who is responsible for the stock? How does it work?
Good. So this is how warehouse insurance works. So if you have a 3PL, the 3PL should have an insurance already in place.
Yeah.
But I always advise people to also get a supplemental insurance through their 3PL. You can have your 3PL get an additional insurance for you for, it could be like $15 a month or $20. It could be as little as that, right? The reason why is, let's say your 3PL has a $2 million insurance policy and something goes wrong at your 3PL. Who are they going to pay first? Your 3PL has 50 brands or 100 brands that they're taking care of. Whose product is the insurance company going to pay first?
Yeah.
That's where the problem is. So I always tell people, just get your additional one, because in that case, your product takes priority. When the insurance is paying you, you take priority because you have a separate insurance policy covering your product alone inside that warehouse.
So that's kind of a double protection in case.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
I think also Amazon requires you to have that policy as well, right? Third party and comprehensive policy.
Yes, they have. Amazon wants you to have a product liability insurance, that I know. And then I don't know if they want your 3PL to have it, but usually 3PL should have insurance, because even if the 3PL is renting the facility should require the 3PL, who is renting, to have an umbrella insurance to cover the goods. So here we have two types of insurance. We have the general liability facility coverage, and then we have the product coverage as well. We have the inventory coverage, and we have the general coverage on top. So we have double protection for what's inside the building and the whole structure of the building itself.
Great. Thank you. Means I think we are kind of on the time limit, but I just want to ask 3 more questions. The first one, do you offer your service? Where are you based in the US, and do you have
So we're
warehouse
based on the
around
East
the
Coast,
country? Could you just give us some
which is an hour
details
and a
on that?
half from the port of New York, New Jersey. People that use our service, they ship their products to New York, New Jersey port, and then the drayage, the trucking companies will bring it here for us.
That's great. And to finalize it, is there any advice that you want to give a seller that who is planning to bring
make
stock from
sure
China?
you've done make sure you have your HCS code sorted out so you don't get a surprise at the border when you're bringing your products in. Make sure you know so that in case your forwarder gives you a bill to pay your US customs, you're not panicking because you already know your HCS code and you already know the duty rate. Make sure you do your inspection and make sure they pack your containers perfectly before it leaves China. And then use a very good freight forwarder. Don't go just by price. People go by price in 3PL, in freight forwarder. Always get what you pay for. You don't always look for the cheapest price when you're shipping your product, because if something goes wrong with that product, most forwarders are brokers of another broker of another broker. It's like a long chain of brokers with the freight forwarders and the and if something goes wrong and you're on the very bottom of the stack, that little broker would just run away and they would not reimburse you or anything for you if something goes wrong. We've seen some products that come into our facility, and the container is leaking. So there's a little hole. I've seen like 10, 20 events like that. And by the time the products arrive, and they're already building mold inside them. So, but the insurance of the person covered it because he got a very good freight, company to back, what he's doing, what they loaded into the product. He got a really good insurance company to do that. So make sure you have using a good freight insurance. Bring your product in. Make sure you use a 3PL that knows what they're doing, knows Amazon very well. Not every warehouse owner. Many people are warehouse owners and they think they're 3PL. It's very different. To have a warehouse space and you're providing warehouse very different from taking care of Amazon customers. If you have not sold on Amazon before, you are not qualified to have a 3PL for Amazon business, because many times people tell us they send their goods to us and they send a label for us to send the goods out to Amazon. And we look at the label, we're like, no, this is wrong. And then we send it back to them, say, no, you have to fix this label. This is not the right label. And they're like, right, I generated it from Seller Central. I'm like, yeah, I know, but look at your label is wrong. It's because we have experience on Amazon. If it's somewhere out somewhere that you found they've never to Amazon before, some people will send us labels to send some pallets to Amazon, and we're like, no, you can't send this pallet to Amazon like this. Your box is too heavy. Your pallet height is too high. I'm not argue if you send this product like that, right? we make sure we help them, but this comes from knowledge, experience of selling since 2002, and having fought Amazon, having wrestled with Amazon for a long time. We're able to help our customers do better and to avoid all these costly mistakes.
Yeah, that's great. Maybe I should name you as HS Code Man. You are so specialized in that area. I think you should be known as that with that name, HS Code Man. That's great. Thanks a lot for all the insight. I really appreciate that, Afolabi. And thanks a lot for all those special, golden nuggets that you have provided. And for the viewers, I will put all the links that he have mentioned, and I have put a link as well to this website. And he also has some special offer as well. So do you want to go ahead and mention about it, please?
Duty rate, or we find any error in your current duty rate, instead of $500 one-time fee, we give you $100 off just for this show. Just mention the code we're going to give a show, and for us to monitor your products for you. Right now, that service is about to roll out. Instead of $20, offering it for $10 per product per year for you guys. Less than $1, we will be monitoring all of customs bases or everything that affects your product. If something, and there are at least 40 things that can happen. It's your HTS code. You could either be listed under anti-dumping. You could be listed under factory. Could be listed under forced child labor. Your rate up or down. The FDA scrutiny, you could be tons of things now that could go wrong that many people don't realize. I was talking to somebody last week. Somebody brought him to see if I could help him. He was seized at the border for 6 months. 6 months. They detained his product because one of the ingredients he used in his product was made in an area that the US government has flagged as forced child labor area of China. How in the world are you going to know that? This guy didn't do anything wrong. You don't know. It's just unfair. But for that reason, they stopped. He paid demurrage for almost 6 months. And then they had to send the container back to China. They did not allow that container into the States. That's how terrible it was. So many things could happen. We will be happy to monitor your and $1 a month. You get protection. At least if anything, your product is flagged with anything, we will know immediately. So you can send that your forwarder, and so that they can be aware of it.
Yeah, that's a very good investment. When you're buying, when you're spending so much money on the container, you want to make sure that everything goes right. We don't want a container to be returned back, right? It's going to be really costly, and your Amazon listing and everything will be affected without not being in stock.
You're welcome,
That's some great points.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot for your time. Really appreciate that. Take care.